National Assembly is set to amend the 1999 Constitution to ensure gender equality and enact laws to improve the fortunes of women and girls here in Nigeria. The Senate has resolved to expunge some provisions of the law in the Police Act, the Federal Character Law, the Electoral Act, and Labour Act, amongst others, which infringe on the rights of women in Nigeria. The resolutions were passed at plenary on Wednesday when senators considered a motion on the 2021 International Women's Day celebration. Joining us now is Indi Kato, a human rights activist, to speak on what this all means. Well, welcome to the show, Indi. Thank you for joining us. I mean, as women, great. As women, it does make for exciting reading that if we want to see changes that enable more women and girls to thrive and assume positions of power, you'd like to think that it starts with laws, and thereafter you'd be able to hope that trickles down into society, and for lack of a better word, everybody will be on the same page. Why do you think it's taken so long for us to get to this point in the first place?
Political will too. Political will is an issue. And let me point out clearly that the fact that they say it does not mean that, this year or next year. So my reaction will be negative, not because I don't want to celebrate this, but I think it keeps the fire on their toes. I would have used another word, but TV doesn't permit it. It keeps the fire on their toes, so they have to act on it, because we have seen, I think, was it last year or 2 years ago that the speaker promised women, electoral reforms, and we're still waiting. So on these days, it seems, this was said on International Women's Day. And it's a good thing to say on International Women's Day, isn't it? It's in the euphoria of the day. But after International Women's Day, will we get anything? And that's a concern. Will we do, yes, we really wanted to pay attention to it, but that senator from here and that senator from there, it's not, it's now beyond our power. We thought we could do something, but we can't do something anymore. And it usually gets to that point. So my own thought would be, yes, it's exciting, but, let me not answer everything in one question. I'm sure there are follow-up questions.
All right, Indi. Well, someone said power is not giving. You have to take it. You have to work at getting it. Nobody wants to give you power. So, you said you're not particularly excited about it. Not that you are not, but what are people like you and women organizations doing, because you've just alluded to that in some ways, to make sure that this becomes a reality?
I would, how do I, you do know that we get asked these things a lot as women. It's almost like, you just want them to give you something, you're not doing anything. And every time we answer, you see, oppression keeps you busy explaining why you should have rights. Oppression keeps us busy explaining why we deserve. Oppression keeps us busy with, actually, I have been trying and this is why. And I will tell you, just because. And I'm saying that our human rights should be given to us just because, not because we're doing any work, because it's human rights. Equal rights because we're human beings, not because as women organizations, we have to put this, we have to put that. If I had to ask you every time why you deserve to have human rights as a Nigerian and what you're doing about it to have human rights as a Nigerian, if you hear the question once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, you start to, So this is not to say that us women are not doing anything. There are a group of women led by Nigerian Women's Trust Fund and Women in Politics Forum that are actually suing the government for equality in Nigeria. There are a group of us also who are working in the National Assembly towards ensuring that there is a gender angle to the electoral reforms. The Ministry of Women Affairs has been on and on about this, to the point where the minister actually knelt down for the Speaker of the House of Representatives, a thing that women were so enraged about. We have had conversations upon conversations. We have protested on the streets. Google Women for Women and see that the UN Women has been very good with organizing towards this. We have gone to embassies, sought help, Canadian embassy, Swedish embassy, name it. We have been very excellent as women. Our lives should actually be a testimony as to why women should lead. We have led movements nationwide that shows you that, look, when you give women these things, or when women are put into places of leadership, or women take over the mantle of leadership, it really is something to watch, and things get done very effectively. Another thing about this is not just about us. You, sir, you don't like enjoyment. If everybody is able to be functional, I think we would have a more stable country. I keep saying that you can draw a straight line from the inequalities women in northern Nigeria suffer to the current state of the region. If girls have been married off before they can touch a certain age, they do not have their rights, they do not have a voice, they do not have the power to earn and to contribute to the society. The society begins to look really imbalanced. They cannot take care of their kids as much as they should. They cannot also ensure the future of their kids because they do not have a voice. Families are poorer when one person cannot, when two parents cannot contribute on equal level. Societies are poorer. So for the sake of, as a man, if you're not doing this for altruistic reasons because you care about women, you don't like enjoyment. Don't you? You don't want to loosen up a bit. You don't want to, you would like that. You would like that.
That's a natural human thing to want to enjoy. You're absolutely correct there, Indy. Let me ask you this question before Femi comes in. When we say, let's not take things for granted, that's what I'm asking. When we say gender equality or parity, as the case may be, what are we really about here? Break it down.
We're about our rights to have the same rights as you do, part of these laws that we're talking about, for example, did you hear of the girl that was suspended for getting pregnant?
In the police?
This was fired from the Nigerian police force, yes. And these things do not apply to the men. Taking permission before you get married. Most of these places of women who are married are not employed into those places, right? They have to vet the husband that you're going to marry. Permission before you get pregnant. If your husband is from another country in Nigeria, he doesn't, and as a Nigerian woman, if your husband is from another country, he doesn't have the right to citizenship. But men who marry foreign women, like Nigerian men who marry foreign women, have that. Some parts of Nigerian law, the penal code allows men to beat their wives. It says that if you don't inflict grievous injury. And this may sound, oh my God, wow to you, but it's our reality. I come from Kaduna State. It means that I fall under that. And if you don't have to live with thinking about these things, it's a privilege. It's a great privilege for you. If you don't have to live with thinking that, look, your marital rights are not in your hands. People, they're actually, laws that allow for you to be given out at a young age. It's not a good reality to live with. So these are, and let's be clear that even when these laws, are passed, the effect of this inequality on women's lives is so much. It's so much that we have to really focus on implementation after. You go through cases. I worked on human rights response in COVID-19 in Nigeria. And I'll tell you what we saw. We thought that we were going to see more police brutality. No, it became a sexual and gender-based violence epidemic in the pandemic. It was that bad. And you can all tie these things to the inequality in Nigeria. Inequality, when we talk of, when women are talking about, cooking, and you're like, my mother cooked, this generation. No, it's not. It's not just that egusi. It's the economy of the egusi soup. It's the reality, the implication that you are entitled to another person's time and another person's labor. The person may want to do it, and that's good. But are you entitled to it? Gender inequality gives you the sense of entitlement. What of the culture of rape and sexual harassment in Nigeria? Yesterday, we saw a clip of a young girl, right, on a bike, and she had the clothes that was transparent, and the bike man won't move. The other men around were sexually harassing her in broad daylight. And it speaks to the Nigerian culture. It is that people feel ownership of a woman's body. And even when these laws are passed, we need to keep pushing to ensure that, look, women's bodies belong to them. The way she dresses doesn't mean that you can touch her. But our society is knee deep, it's soaked in these kind of things. And because of that, women have to keep pushing. It's not your reality to be scared that if you go out today in Ilupeju or in Yaba without your shirt, nobody will blink. In fact, if you go out naked today, nobody will feel like touching your genitals.
All right,
Indeed,
yeah, we'll get back to you. Just hang in there. We'll be right back. Yeah, Ndika, glad to have you still watching The Money Show. Ndika, human rights activist, talking so passionately. And if she were to appear before the House of Reps or Senate, I think she's going to win so many houses because of the way she's coming across. You wouldn't even think that she's a human rights. I mean, we've always had this picture of people who want to,
that in itself is a problem.
Yeah.
That we masquerade strength as something that's not feminine. That you can't listen to somebody who's putting a point across in an animated way because she's a woman. Whereas if a man wanted to put his point across in a strong way or in an animated way, I don't think it takes away from the point. And I think that's what we're talking about.
If sometimes that's I said you don't have to scream and shout because you want to, even though it happens at times. All right, but that's a kudos. That's a
point.
Sorry?
Let me add to her point because I'm actually on TV a lot for national issues, and I am accused of not smiling, of being too ferocious. Why are you angry?
But you're smiling and you're not ferocious.
Because it's a women's point. It's an issue for women, and people are going to look at it, and the first thing they're going to say is, why is the feminist angry? So my thought is that today I'm going to smile through making my points. My points are as ferocious as they are always.
I agree.
But they're said with a smile. They are said with a smile because I'm making points for women.
Somebody said you can tell somebody you're stupid with a hard face, and the person will fight you. You can tell the person you're stupid smiling, and the person says, yes, I'm stupid, But anyway, let me ask you this.
Before you do, I wanted to ask Indy, if she truly believes, Indy, do you truly believe that there's an appetite for women's equality in this country? Because if there were...
Not.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. If there were, we wouldn't be having these conversations, especially in the week of women, International Women's Day. Why is it for this week in March that we're open to hearing about women, but next year, unfortunately, it may well be the same thing? The fact of the matter is, for a long time, we've known that across the board in businesses, when you have more women on executive boards, those businesses outperform their counterparts that don't have women in executive positions. We know that countries that have women at the helm of leadership tend to fare better for unexpected issues, looking at the COVID-19 pandemic and how New Zealand, for example, was able to shelter its country from the very strong waves of this pandemic. The fact that we are here in Nigeria doesn't make our drive for women's equality or equality among the genders any more pertinent, because this is definitely an issue around the world. But it does seem as though here it's very difficult to challenge that appetite that doesn't seem to want any type of women in leadership or women in having any sort of equality. So when we know that, isn't it quite depressing to know that it is very difficult to make even the smallest point to equality, even when we know it's best for the country? How do you continue doing it?
Honestly, I don't know where we find the strength, but we just keep going. And I remember when I first joined this space, I was so positive. I see a lot of young women coming in. I'm like, okay, welcome. I was so positive, and I thought we could do so much in such a short period of time, or just keep going, Maybe the older women were doing something wrong, maybe, But by the time you answer the same question over and over again everywhere, you start to understand that it's not a lack of knowledge that is making these questions being posted at you. It is that your time is being wasted and there is no intention of changing things. So the person who is asking you already has the answers. They know. But like I said, oppression likes to keep you busy. And that is what we find ourselves in. You see, your point is very valid, because by next month, approach the Senate on this and it's another issue. It's a good thing to say. It's a good thing to say. It's good optics for the Senate president to say that. It's really good. And it's also easy to say, I tried my best, but you see, Senator 123 didn't really want to pass it, and it's really going on and on. You also have to, again, come back to these questions and how we will attempt to pass it in the National Assembly, and the offices you would have to enter and have to explain over and over again. I mean, we have the patience, we will explain, but some people will still not agree to it despite your explanation. And it's a tad stressful. It's a tad stressful, I'll tell
I can
you.
understand.
Like I said, by next month, you may not be hearing this conversation. Last year, we had all these conversations. To the year before, it looked so promising. It had been promised. And so this is what I'm going to say, that you see, this women issue, it's not a women issue, it's an all of us issue. And I will put I'll put you, the gentleman, on the burner. I'll put you in a tight spot and say that, there is a journalist next to you. You can hear the difference in how much this means to her, right? And try as you may, you cannot relate on that level of what she's relating to. You owe us also not pushing this to, oh, it's a women's matter. You owe us mainstreaming this conversation as often as possible, right? Like I've drawn a straight line between inequalities and all the issues that, I've used Northern Nigeria as an example. So can you look at inequality as a security issue and know that as you're speaking for insecurity in Nigeria, this is part of the reason. This is where it's coming from. So it's not a women's issue. It's affecting you too.
Agree.
When you look at Nigeria's GDP and you feel we can do better, it's affecting you too. When you're looking at the quality of laws that are being passed in Nigeria, the quality of leadership, and you're seeing countries that are achieving parity in leadership and how good they have it, you start to understand that this is an all of us issue. And it's an all of us issue, not because you particularly care about me, but because you are selfish too. We all are. We have our selfish interests. And you must take this issue and apply to your selfish interests and say, I also want this, and mainstream it so that it's not for International Women's Day we're talking about it. We're talking about it every day. I would speak to also the fact that, a lot of the time, I can speak on a myriad of issues, to be honest. I'm a political analyst. And I remember there was this particular TV station I'll go to, and they'll keep asking me, what should we call you? But I would have men brought in to debate me time after time, and they were not half as smart, but they knew to call them analysts immediately. They never just knew what to call me. So one day I looked at them and I was like, you will call me this because I am this. I'm an expert at certain issues. You will call me this. So I would point out that you need to make an effort to make it easier for us. I know no Nigerian is having it easy right now. I know it's all of us, but there are issues that women face that we don't need to face, that it's worse for us.
Indeed, I totally agree with your submissions. And frankly, the way you're putting this across is winning me big time. Really. The way you're putting it across is fine, it's good. And I'm being sold, even if I weren't before. And I'm sure Femi, no, I said even if I weren't before. Okay. Forgive me, please. All right. All right, yeah. How can, because this borders on the next question I want to ask because it's important. How can Nigerians be encouraged, I know it's a worldwide issue, but how can Nigerians be encouraged to maintain a gender equality mindset? Because it all begins in the mind, how we think, how we reason. Yeah. And challenge, encourage to maintain a gender equality mindset and challenge gender stereotypes and biases which we have had from time, especially based on culture. I'm afraid you don't have all the time, just briefly.
Okay, so let me try. I would use Arise TV as an example. I have a communication background, right? I have said previously that you should mainstream women issues because as people in communication, you understand what agenda setting is. You understand that you are gatekeepers for information and influence, right? Use your platform that way to ensure that every time you're reporting the news, report women. Please bring more of us on to talk about national issues. That way, you're normalizing people, seeing us normally in these spaces as people who can contribute across board. Find more of us. Talk to women politicians about things. If they refuse, go back again. It's not every time you go to see the Senate president that he opens up to you, but it's so
Indeed,
easy to give up on women politicians.
it's been a pleasure to have you on the show today. Thank you
Right.
so much for your
Yeah.
great insight on this topic.